Na 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 na. What's in the box? I am an ancient being who grew up in the wilderness, so I understand the importance of being patient. In this day and age, with social media and the constant relentless stream of news that is pumped into our brains 24/7, it can be difficult to remember that it wasn't that long ago that we had to wait for our post. When I was in my 20s, if I ordered something from an exotic place like Milwaukee, it would take an easy 6 to 8 weeks before it even arrived at the borders of my country. So that the ScrawlrBox December turned into more of a ScrawlrBox late January, I kind of see that as a blessing. I can unpack it unbothered by ham. So let's talk a bit about what's in this box. We have the usual Scrawler zine, of course, the usual print of the featured artist, and we have one pad of Derwent watercolor paper. It's 12 sheets and it's all smooth, so good for watercolor pencils and, well, the material that I'm unpacking right now. When I first started on this subscription, I thought maybe I would get a nicer brand of markers or a watercolor that I hadn't seen before. They're 2 for 2 with material I have never encountered in my life. So, the cheat sheet and the sticker and, you know, a kneadable eraser, which again is something I have wanted for 10 years and never bought, so thank you ScrawlrBox for getting me a kneadable eraser. A 6B pencil and a brush, and then this thing. This thing. These are Marabu art crayons. They're wax-based soft pastels. And I have never seen anything like this before in my life. So let's test out. Let's see what we can do. My camera skills have vastly improved from last month. The first thing I noticed with these crayons is that they feel a lot like drawing with a lipstick. Like, they're described as buttery smooth, and I have to agree. Like, they're so slippery. And according to the instructions, they're also water soluble, hence the brush, which proved to be a little more difficult than I expected, and I'll talk more on that in a moment. First impression is that the colors are super bright, like they're really easy to get on, and they're very bright, but they also, like, little bits flake off when you use them, and I wasn't pressing hard at all, I was just rubbing it against the paper. I also noticed quite quickly that if you let the crayons dry at all, they are more difficult to blend in any kind of smooth fashion. You get this little texture that just remains on the paper, and again, I didn't press these hard at all. So you have like a top layer that dissolves really easily in the water, and it keeps this strong, nice color. It gets a little blotchy, maybe, like they're not the easiest to control, but the color stays nice and strong, and then you have this like really annoying texture. And I tried a lot to blend it out, as you can see, and I picked up more pigments, but the shape of where I first drew with the crayon, that didn't really go anywhere. And you can see that when it starts to dry out, it kind of sticks there. It's not like watercolor that you can sort of reactivate. The theme this month is expressive expressions. And I'm a comic artist, so I'm doing expressions all day long. Like, that's my favorite thing to draw. So I figured this time I was gonna do something a little bit different. I don't know a lot about Expressionism. It's not my favorite art movement. I'm still kind of stuck on surrealism since I was 18 and learned about Frida Kahlo, and you know, like every other 18-year-old queer person, that's kind of what defines the rest of your life. But I wanted to do something that was fueled by emotion rather than wanting it to look like something. So I drew around a bit, I scribbled, and I had like a feeling in my mind when I drew it. Like I had an idea of what kind of emotion I wanted to portray. And I also wanted to try out the different techniques that they tipped about in the zine. Because I didn't do that too much last time because the graphitint the graphitint colors are similar to watercolors, so I just use the same techniques as I do with watercolors. So here, a few of the things that they said was you can rub the colors together with your finger. I don't know if I did it wrong because it smudged a bit, but normal wax crayons smudge more than these. Like once they're on the paper, they kind of stick. They're not that easy to move around, and even with a lot of water, they don't budge a lot. And you can see like my initial mark making is still very much visible, even though I have mixed out the colors more and I blended the colors, and I managed to create this like kind of off-putting brownish orange. So they're more difficult to work with than I expected, and I think I need to have more of a plan if I'm going to use them for anything that isn't just like this. I also noticed that even if you scribble and then immediately apply water, it helps, like it doesn't dry out completely, so you can mix it better, but you can't ever like really get the strokes to disappear. So that might be something to remember if you're going to work with these crayons. Again, trying to smudge with my finger and it's not really working, huh? One thing I want to try is that you can shave off bits of the crayons and dissolve it into water and make a paste and paint with that. And that way you can also mix colors. And I think I'm going to try that next time because this isn't really working too well. At least not just going straight on the paper and not have a plan. I will say it holds a lot of pigment, and even if like the strokes are still visible, I can also just with a wet brush go back and pick up pigments and paint something like the flowers. Like that, I wasn't super expecting that actually, because there's a lot of pigment you can just get and reuse. I think the thing I enjoy the most with these crayons are actually the colors, because they are so bright and so vivid. And I like that. I like bright and vivid colors. This is where I felt like things started to go a little bit astray. People don't know this because I usually don't post my like stress scribbles that I do in my trash sketchbooks or on the back of old envelopes. I draw very strange things when I'm not supposed to show anyone. And that came out in full force while doing this. So I guess the whole experiment of doing something driven purely by emotion instead of planning and thinking and using my experience as an artist, it kind of worked out. I draw a lot of this stuff when no one's looking. I have a vast collection of duck people doing yoga, because that's what I draw when I don't know what to draw. And I have a vast collection of weirdly shaped faces screaming into the abyss. And that's kind of what this is, I guess. Let me know in the comments what emotion you think this drawing portrays. And I'll see you next time.